Hey YouTube, what's going on? Chris here. Want to bring you guys a little update on Litecoin Bitcoin chart. We've been looking at this, and remember that video I did about the rounded bottom, how we were looking into that, and then that started to play out. Now what we're looking at here is basically this wedge formation that we've been forming. It's kind of like that ascending, broadening wedge that we looked at on the Litecoin chart. I think it was Litecoin USD, and we were talking about where we forming this ascending, broadening wedge. And that's what we're going to get into a little bit today with this LTC BTC charts, and I'm going to look at some areas, different support, resistance, things like that. If you guys could like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, I greatly appreciate it. We're trying for 100 likes on this video. You all have been wonderful for me. I can't thank you enough getting those likes and helping this channel grow, and we're up over 5,000 subscribers now, so couldn't do it without y'all, and I'm just so thankful. So on the LTC BTC, we're down 7% right now. And remember, guys, we're talking about don't FOMO into these things. When we had this rocket ship up, I was telling you guys, just wait for that pullback. The trend's starting to change here, especially on this one-day chart. This is a changing, a rounding bottom that was taking place, and that's where that supply and demand shift was happening. And then you're also having this volume start to come back in, and we haven't seen volume like that since back in here. And you can tell this whole bear market down here, we had just been losing ground with LTC BTC, and now we're starting to get that spike back up. And we've been obeying a few things, guys. Number one, this wedge that we've been forming, and we actually have 3 touches now on this wedge, and we have 3 down low. So we're going to see if we get a nice little pullback. And where I'm looking at is to this green line right around this range here, that 0.01021 right in there. And the reason why I'm thinking that is, number one, this old resistance turned support. That's number one. Number two, this lower trend line that we've been having on this wedge, which is playing a factor. And also we're up above the 200-day moving average, and we have the 50 moving average as well as the 20-day EMA crossing over that 200 moving average. So we have those golden crosses, we have moving average crosses taking place right now, we have good volume that came in, we're up above the 200-day moving average. So now what we're looking for is that potential pullback for Litecoin, and a potential place to go long again and see if we can make up some ground here on this upside. You see how far and how fast we fell right over here? We'll most likely make that up on the backside a lot of the times, guys. And how this goes is that higher high and then higher low, higher high and then higher low. You're always going to have those pullbacks, those retracements. It's like a stair step. And that's what we're going to have to look for. Now, sometimes you just have this blast off like we had here. But that volume, I mean, there's no predicting that, guys. That's when this type of volume comes in, especially in like a day or two, the whales decide, I'm going to put some money in now, and then we got to try to ride their coattails. That's what you can do. But you can plan. You can say, hey, this is a spot potentially where people are going to be getting interested in some Litecoin. Litecoin, Bitcoin. So that's what happened, and then you saw that blast off, and now you're starting to see that volume emerge back into this market here, and we got that nice drive to the upside. Another thing I was looking at was the trend line break. We've talked about how important trend line breaks are. Those are one of the biggest things in technical analysis. The book that I have, 7 Chart Patterns That Consistently Make Money, I think it was number 3 or number 4 was trend line breaks. And I'm talking about all the things about trendline breaks, how they, will break out and come back, or they'll just break out, or they'll break out and go all the way back through, and they'll actually reverse into a broken pattern, things like that. So you have to pay attention, and you have to be prepared for all angles. But it's amazing to see how these trend lines work. This trend line in purple here, you saw that, and what happened once it broke? We had that move to the upside. Yeah, it took time, it took some days, but it happened, and we broke it. And that's important. Just like being up above this 200-day moving average, this is bigger than most people realize, that we are back up above that. So now we're going to want to turn that into support. That had been acting as resistance for the longest time. And now you see how it's starting to hook, and these are starting to point up. This 50 starting to point up, and it's starting to meet up here with this trend line. Right? So those are spots that potentially you could go long, but right now what you're seeing is a bearish engulfing candle on this LTC BTC chart. Right there. So that's more indication that we may get pushed down to around this 20, and that's where I'm going to be looking at it, at some different things there around that 0.0104 Satoshi. But this is definitely, and we're going to see where we close today, guys, but this is definitely a bearish engulfing candle of this one, and it's after we had that huge move, so we can expect a nice little pullback or a nice little retracement. And if we throw a Fibonacci on here, and we go from basically this move that we're seeing take place here, you can see we wick down to the 0.382, which is around that 0.01147 A lot of times we've been having pullbacks into that 50 and into that 0.618, and I'm thinking the 0.618 is going to be a hot spot due to the 20 and also due to this overhead or this support that we have here. We had it as overhead resistance, but we are now going to see if we can turn that into support. Remember, old resistance becomes new support and vice versa. So we're going to look for that, but I'm just being patient right now. We're having that nice pullback that we want, and then we could blast off again and see if we're going to get to a higher high. And in this wedge, guys, you know, there's times when they can break down, there's times they can break up, and you can study all the percentages like I've went through on that last Litecoin video. I read all the percentages to you guys, so I think it was yesterday's video or the day before. Go back and check that out, the ascending broadening wedge, and you can hear what I was reading out of my book all about it, and how important it is, what happens, and you know how often it breaks to the downside, the upside, and things like that. So let's clear this off, and what we're going to do, we're just going to step back a little bit more. I want to get all these lines off here. Now that we've looked at that support and we looked at the trend line break, we've been looking at the moving averages. It's so nice to just see, guys. Remember that rounded bottom I was talking about, and it's just started to come. And then this is the line that you just really need to pay attention to, is this trend line down here, even more so than the wedges we were drawing. And guys, this is just a rough estimate. I'm not going to get super close in there. I'm trying to go off the real bodies, but we're going at a distance here. We're just doing a rough estimate. I know some people like to be trend line commanders where they're looking at everything, and if it's not here, not perfect, this or that. Guys, I'm getting a rough estimate. If I'm going to make a trade and everything, I'll zoom in real close. But this is just, we're just talking here, okay? We're looking for a pullback, and we're looking for this trend line that I drew here to hold. So we're almost treating it at this point here. Obviously, we could close down through here in the next, you know, week, couple weeks come, depending on how fast this moves. Or this trend line here will be treated like a concrete wall, and traders will be playing that for a bounce off it. So as we get closer down to this line in this 20 EMA, we're going to have to be looking for indicators, volume. We're going to have to be looking at the RSI. We're going to have to be looking at MACD, things like that. So if we pull up the RSI right now, all right. So the RSI here on the day, we're at 69. So we're getting to that. We're about at that oversold. In traditional markets, that's 70. Cryptocurrency, we can extend up into the 90s, no problem. We've all seen it happen. We can go as low as 6, 7, 5. We've seen that on Bitcoin too throughout this bear market. Levels we never thought could happen, but we saw them. So yeah, is there more room for the upside? Was this enough cooling off? Yeah, we could have a little cool off, then another shot up there, but it really needs to pull back. It really needs to calm down, gain its momentum, gain the volume, and with these crosses, we need to move back up then once we have a nice healthy pullback to that 0.5 or that 0.618. Now, on the RSI, same deal with these higher lows that have been coming in. We need to pay attention to those, and we also need to pay attention and see if this trend line holds. All right, and you can draw this as well. Remember how we talked about drawing lines, trend lines on the RSI? And we can keep tabs with this and see how this is working in here. So let's step back now. I'm going to pull this off, but those are different tips and tricks with the RSI. All right. So of this move here, these are things we just want to go through now. We're going to fib it both ways. Again, so we broke through, which we've talked about this on the 1 day, guys. This is crucial that we broke through this 0.236, and we need to hold it as support. Now we don't want to drop back underneath it. That's another thing that's kind of lining up with this trend line here. So there's a lot happening around this area, guys, that we want to pay very close attention to, but we have made it up above that 0.236, and we are not close to that on the actual Bitcoin chart. So keep that in mind. This chart is definitely, this LTC BTC is so much more bullish than just the Bitcoin chart alone. So we fibbed in that way, and know that we did have that 0.236 that we got up above it. So that's a big deal for the bullish case. And now what we're going to look for is this fib here. So we are directly on the 0.236 right there in terms of this retracement on the 1 day. If we got a massive bounce off the 0.236, that's extremely bullish, guys. That's hella bullish. All right. So I'm not thinking that. This is my zone. right in here. This is where I'm looking at, that 0.382, that 0.5, and I'm thinking maybe this 0.618 because we've had so many bounces, but that would mean most likely a trend line break here, which I wouldn't like to see. So I'm keeping that in mind, but this is some good volume that came in, my friends. Just pay attention to this bearish engulfing candle. I can't stress it enough, and that's where we closed. It's a definite bearish engulfing candle. We have it. That's the close right there, and now we're going to have to see if we just slowly pull back into here. But these are my thoughts. These are my opinions, guys. I just wanted to do this real quick. I had 10 minutes. I said, hey, you know what? We've been looking at this chart. I'm looking at it as well. I sold and I was looking for that pullback now, and I'm looking for the pullback, and we're going to see, you know, kind of maybe around this area, if that's a good spot, this whole area around here to go long. So we'll see. But remember, guys, this isn't financial advice. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here with me, for all the likes, subscribe, getting to 5,000 subscribers. I'm really hoping we can just continue to grow from here. I can continue to learn more about this technical analysis. You guys can help me, and we can just grow together. Remember, when I started this YouTube channel, I was brand new to all this charting and cryptocurrency and everything, and I was just kind of documenting my journey, and this is where we've ended up so far. And you know, it's after a lot of hours of hard work and studying and things, but I'm still a beginner. I'm learning a lot, and we're just going to keep learning together, guys. God bless each and every one of you. Leave it down low. Thank you, my friends.